So we find the northeast corner of the dining room.
I should go set up another room. You're actually, it's going and it's pointing at this.
Oh, good. Thank you.
If you want to be seen,
Okay.
stand right as well.
That's fun. There you go.
Thanks for the idea.
I know. Today.
What?
I think it's yeah.
Oh, I did.
It's me. Right.
New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Well, yes. Those here in the last enjoy those different. You see what Joanna had to say.
Oh, you're gonna like this one.
Oh, this is good. It's much better than Nina.
We're not gonna play any video games, but.
Oh, good. One of the things I tell my students is don't use the same word twice in one sentence, and you've used it 3 times.
Yes.
But it's a title, so it's okay.
It's a title, and there's a semicolon.
Ooh, that helps a lot.
The all important.
Where's the semicolon?
After the third,
Colon.
oh, colon.
Yes, okay, good. Getting me worried here.
Well, then that's kind of profound.
So they don't, they were emailing correctly.
I like it. Another place I've never been.
Where is accreditation?
California, right now. But there's several of those states up in the New England area that I've never been to.
It's a different part of the country.
Beautiful. California is actually like desert.
And she's still trying, but she's not
Especially southern New Jersey.
Yeah, that's
We went to a conference in Atlantic City years ago.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, just checking to make sure that everybody's awake and alive. Thank you for coming. We are from the University of Rhode Island. We are here to present to you our process of faculty training. We're teaching online with Sakai, as you can see from the title. We have many fun activities for you to be engaged in today. We're going to start today with some introductions, talk to you a little bit about us, give you some brief history about us. We're going to have some questions we want you to answer. We want to get some information from you, have a conversation, and then we'll talk a little bit more in detail about our process. I'm Kathleen Torrens, and I'm the Assistant Director of Online Education and Professor of Communication Studies. I'm one of those people who allegedly wears 2 half-time hats. Not true. I'm sure I see some heads nodding, so there's a lot of that going on out there. My esteemed colleague.
I'm Joanna Portman-Daly. I'm currently the Instructional Design Specialist. I was stolen from the Department of Writing and Rhetoric, where I was faculty. I still teach for that department 1 course a semester, but I am now in the Office of Online Education.
We poach people in the office. Can I ask who's here? Faculty? Faculty plus other things? Okay. Developers? Trainers? Faculty development? Awesome. Great. So at URI, we had people teaching online, they say, 20 years ago. There are many people who claim that they started teaching online with email. That's not necessarily a proud moment for us at this stage in our career. We currently have many, 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 many courses that are fully online, many courses that are blended, and it's all developed in a very haphazard kind of way. I was part of a faculty development initiative several years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, to train faculty to teach online in the summer to boost summer enrollment. From that, I realized that there were a lot of faculty teaching online at URI who really didn't know a lot about online pedagogy. So there were lots of lectures being streamed, there were lots of podcasts, there were lots of practices going on that wouldn't necessarily be considered best practices. So based on the first opportunity that I had with faculty development, I started pushing for more and more and more faculty development. I developed a program, a training program for online teaching fellows. I had different kinds of tool workshops going on. And this was mostly before we went from WebCT to Sakai. When we transferred to Sakai, the need was even greater because people were freaked out. They hated the new LMS. They couldn't figure out how to make it work. And so I had a golden opportunity to start instituting some actual faculty training.
And before any of this training was really established, much of the pedagogical training was heaped upon departments. So IT offers a lot of great Sakai training, and they have some people over there who help with the pedagogical sides of things, but a lot of it fell on the department. So in the Department of Writing and Rhetoric, I became the digital pedagogy specialist, and so that meant every single faculty member came to me for questions about how to teach online, how to teach fully blended, how to build the courses. I had no formal training in this. I just happened to be interested in it and know more than the rest of them at that point. So I became the haphazard go-to person.
After a short period of time, the provost recognized that there was a serious need. We had this new LMS, people were unhappy. I was harping about best practices, I was harping about quality assurance, and so he established the Office of Online Education. No budget, no space, no personnel other than me, kind of in my own goodwill. But 2 years ago we hired a director, got an office, we hired Joanna, we have a team, we actually have something that looks like an Office of Online Education, and we're actually going great guns to try to get some stuff put into place. So that tells you kind of where we're coming from. Our goals for the session: to share and gain valuable information. So we want to hear from you. We hope that our experiences can help you. We're here to answer questions if you're interested about what we did specifically. But this is not us telling you that this is the best way. This is what worked for us.
So what we want to do right now is take about 5 or 10 minutes for you guys to go to this Google form and answer these questions to spur some great discussion. We're interested in how your institution trains faculty for online or blended teaching with Sakai. the modality, the length of training, just however you put it together. Is the training mandatory? We're really interested in that because ours is not yet, and we're hoping it will be. We're curious what institution you work at. And then 4 and 5, what is the biggest challenge your institution has faced regarding this type of faculty development, and how has the institution met, dealt with, or overcome this challenge? And lastly, what is the best practice of online or blended pedagogy that you think is important for faculty to take away from your training? So we'll take 5 or 10 minutes to answer these in the tiny URL /PN3NTCV. Can everyone read that?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you choose not to connect, there are little pieces of paper in front of you. You can write your answers there, and we'd like that information still from you.
What do you have there, student?
Good for you.
Yeah, we have 3 of us. So
Excellent.
I don't want to duplicate by writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
First question, right? So, we do train, our faculty work for beyond teaching. But I think a lot of what it is that we're doing is, at least what I do is talk not so much about changing, their core pedagogy, but really enhancing it only for a given space.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, introducing to them best practices, because a lot of times they're told to take an offline course and convert it online,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't necessarily work.
Right.
So, and I come from a film and television background, so in my opinion, really, especially if you're using web conferencing applications, you almost kind of have to treat that web conferencing application as, a content delivery platform. And so we spend a lot of time with them online, with them in class, to first understand who they are as a professor, what the subject matter is. And then after we understand it, we then spend a lot of time with them. But we do let them know that it is an iterative process. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's, press one button and tomorrow morning you are now trained to, teach online. It's a process.
So I guess we're interested in how you get those best practices across. Do you do it one-on-one? It sounds like you do a lot of one-on-one. Is there an actual course that they take? It sounds like that's what we do too, but and I imagine a lot of people do that in this room, but we're really curious about how it happens.
At this point, no, we don't really have a course design to do that. I think right now we're really focusing on customizing it and personalizing it to who they are first. I think it's important to first understand who that customer is, what they do, and of course their subject matter and the culture of the university and the department.
How are we doing on the questions? Anybody still working, or is everybody doing email?
Still working.
Okay.
In my institution, we have not started anything yet. Okay. So we're now going to put together a team to start training them and then introduce them to Sakai.
Oh, great.
So we are just at the beginning stage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that we have something that we can offer to you.
Yeah.
Good.
What is the email address for the document?
It's at the end. We have our email addresses at the end. Is that what you asked me?
Yes.
So at the end of the presentation, I'll both my email addresses. I didn't bring any cards.
Okay.
Keep their conference without cards.
Don't ask. It's a long story.
Oh! I've done that before.
Interesting. Everybody all set? Awesome. So what I'd like to do is kind of go through these questions, and we're listening for similarities, differences, practices, ideas, etc. So for the first one, who'd like to share how your institution actually does training? Online, face-to-face, how long? We can incorporate the second one. Is it mandatory? Go ahead.
We usually kind of do it with how people approach us. It depends. We really depend on people coming to us that need help. So sometimes it'll just be a one-to-one, face-to-face meeting.
Okay.
But we've also done it if like a bunch of faculty members from one department are getting ready to teach online for the next semester. We'll kind of do a blended, some meetings face-to-face, some things that are doing online.
So you don't have anything that's packaged or standardized?
No.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah.
We do. We have a Sakai training. It's 3 to 4 hours, and faculty can choose to take it in an online format or in a face-to-face format. They choose it. It's mandatory.
Oh, good.
Getting
How
less
is it delivered? How is it delivered?
through Sakai.
Through Sakai.
Through
Awesome.
Sakai. And they cannot be assigned a site for an online course unless they have that training, and quality matters.
Oh, good for you.
Would you ask people to identify the context as well?
What do you mean by context?
Like, I think there's a presumption that we all have fully online courses and a lot of them, and that may not be the case.
Okay, good. That's a good point.
What type of institution? Right?
And what type of institution? I should have called all of you to make up the questionnaire. Thank you. Who else? I saw other hands up. Please.
We're a graduate-only school, theological seminary, and we don't have an online program, but we have online classes that support the main courses. And our faculty, they're chosen by the dean to see if they are allowed to do an online class, and then we do a face-to-face with them. We also, because our faculty are mainly they do a lot of research, and that's their main way of learning. And so we gave them a research reading packet as well, kind of explaining different tools and why these are best practices.
So very audience-centered as far as
so we give
that's.
them a reading packet, so they do research on online technology and.
Just out of curiosity, do you find that that works really well for that particular audience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a little bit older in the faculty. Our average faculty age is a lot higher than I've noticed from other schools.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that they take in, absorb information is through reading and research on their own. And so we figured we do what they do best.
Good. That's an interesting answer. Who else? One more. Go ahead.
So I work at the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College. It's a 4-year program. You need an undergrad to get in. And every course that we have at our school gets a Sakai site. And anyone who's a course coordinator or sort of the leader instructor of that course has to mandatorily take training. And so right now we offer 2 kinds specifically to do a Sakai. One's called Sakai Basics. And we use a template for all our sites since every course gets one. So we go through the main tools that we've chosen for the template in the basics. And then I have a separate one for testing quizzes because it's worthy of a 2-hour session. So that's how we do it right now. I'll be rolling out one for this coming academic year that's called Best Practices for Teaching Online. And so it's taking sort of pedagogy standpoint and applying it to an LMS. So you don't just use your LMS as a content dumper and resources, but here are great ways to facilitate online discussion and all this stuff.
Good.
And these are fully online courses.
No, in class. So every single class gets a Sakai site.
But they're all face-to-face classes?
Pardon?
They're all on-ground classes, so they're technically kind of blended?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, one more hand raised. Do you want to share?
Oh, I'm in a school that similar doesn't do much in the way of fully online. Some professional courses and a few people exploring hybrid. We offer 4 short, like 1-hour classes that get people started with Sakai and several of the tools. Reading groups, just general pedagogy, consultations. That's how we do it. Nothing's mandatory.
Okay. What kinds of challenges have you faced in faculty development in this particular area? Please.
He's produced so much for us over the past 10, 15 years. When we first started teaching online courses, I was the only person who would train and support, and it just grew so incrementally. Now we have a couple of fully online degree programs, master's degree programs, and finally, I had to say, hey folks, remember, it's just me who's doing this, so we had to hire some more help. What really helped us was we put together faculty support groups so they could work among themselves, help each other out.
That's a good idea.
You know, we always have a few faculty members who are more technologically adept, willing to try new things, so they could help new people who came along.
Okay. Who else? Challenge, please.
I'm from University of Western Ontario. I think my response kind of links to question number 2 is training mandatory no. And so our big challenge is getting people out. We see the same really enthusiastic faces at all the, and not just our group, but we pretty much all, anything that might have e-learning identified. We have this great group of faculty that come out for everything, but they're the only ones we see. It's really hard to get anybody else out. They don't want to dedicate time to learning anything new. So.
Faculty are very busy.
Yeah.
But they want to learn it when they need to learn it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have resources, we have kind of a pushback, other challenge.
I totally agree with that. I don't know how to get, that's why we kind of do it as needed.
Yeah.
Also, I think just having consistent expectations on what an online course should contain between like faculty and administrators and the amount of time it's going to take in order to develop that. We have people, sometimes we get emails like, oh, this summer class doesn't have good enrollment, can you move it online?
Oh.
Well, it starts in 3 weeks. So I just
And let's give it to somebody who doesn't have any idea how to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just think having consistent expectations is a really big problem as well.
We're working on that as well. Yeah. Yes.
From Columbia University, and we have a very decentralized organization. So every school is doing their own thing. Some schools have very robust training programs for the faculty. Some don't do anything. None of the schools are talking to each other. They're not talking to the IT. And so it's just less than coordinated.
Wow.
What is happening.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's big. Yes.
I would say our biggest challenge is that people don't understand when they do try to do a blended course or an online course, they don't understand that it's not the same thing and that they have to allow time and they have to rethink.
How many of you have run across faculty who think that it's the dump truck model, that I can take everything I do on ground and do it? Yeah, that's big. Yeah, that's a problem. Have any of you solved your challenges?
I know that, well, not completely.
I know, we all, because we can turn it over to you.
But by using all the matters as
Yeah.
So, long story short, we basically have actions on the
Yep.
And basically he says you have to go through quality managed training and you must teach an online course or a course, which is tied into their contract, it's tied into their stipend.
Wow.
So they're very driven to come to.
That's
training.
motivation. What kind of an institution are you?
Marist College.
Okay.
And so what we've done is we made prerequisites, so before they can take the quality managed training, they have to take 2 other trainings, which is about pedagogy and about the best practices. So before they even get, to the point where they want to get paid, they have to go to workshops.
Well, that's my dream.
Yeah. So that's, it's not training is not mandatory on our campus, but if you want to have a quality online course and get it approved by our internal quality management review, you have to go through these other steps.
That's awesome. So what best practice of online or blended pedagogy do you think is most important for faculty to take away from training? What do you want your online or blended teachers to actually know or do? What's the most important thing? Please.
For us, we're a community college. Predominantly, we have limited bachelor's degrees, but we're mostly community college. And for us right now, the big concern is engagement, student engagement in an online course. A lot of faculty, well, not a lot, but a significant number think that all they have to do is put their stuff online and they don't have to log in on a regular basis. They don't, those kinds of things. So trying to, our faculty are trained, our online faculty know the technology, but they don't really understand how it's different than a face-to-face course and how to engage students.
Right. What is instructor presence and how do you cultivate that?
Right. Yes. Yes.
I totally agree with that. I'm also at community college with about 25% of my courses online. But one thing, a small thing, is just a basic sense of clear course design. I just feel like I go to some key courses that you just look at and think, how does students
Clear course does, absolutely, because if you're a student and you're taking 3 online courses or 4 or 5, and if they all look different, how are you supposed to figure out the navigation? How are you supposed to find the syllabus if it isn't always in the same sorts of place?
And that kind of dovetails communication as well.
Yes, communication.
Announcements.
Clarity of everything, yes, and clarity of expectations for the students and so on and so forth. Other best practices. Please.
So one of the things that we encouraged last semester, starting last year, was because a lot of the faculty were concerned that they were in the business of teaching their students Sakai.
Yeah.
And so what we did really was we removed that obstacle of basically bringing in our technical team and I encouraged our faculty to go ahead and identify tools in Sakai that they would be using. Communicate that clearly to the students, have the students meet with the textbook folks so that they would train the students. Because, in my opinion, half the faculty, all the faculty and the students have to be halfway.
Right.
Faculty have to do their part, students have to do their part.
Right.
So, part of the solution that we found is encouraging the students to do that, and one way that we encourage the students to actually do that was to suggest to professors to offer them some points, made the training mandatory, and also offer some points. And we found that took the onus of professors teaching the students Sakai on someone else.
Right.
And now they were able to really focus on what they really are hired to do, just teach.
What they're qualified to teach.
That helped.
And what kind of an institution are you at?
Pepperdine University.
At Pepperdine, okay. Yeah. So at URI, I'm really 21 years old. I'm really grateful for what you've shared because it makes me realize that what we've been struggling with is the same thing that other people are struggling with. And so I hope that what we've done can help some of you approach some of those challenges. We train our faculty completely online. We don't do anything blended. We don't offer any face-to-face meetings. I used to, when I first started this, have a face-to-face get to know people sort of introductory sort of meeting. And over time it was like, well, I'm really too busy to come to that. So I decided that we're just going to jump right in and just be online like online students. And the reason that I decided to just do that, despite pushback from faculty, was because I really think that if you're an online student, before you're an online teacher, you're going to be a better online teacher. And chances are you're going to be a better face-to-face teacher as well. So I started out with a 7-week online workshop. There was a stipend attached to it. They had to have a course ready to go online at the end of the training. They did that, and they got, I think it was $1,000 at the time. We had a Davis grant that we were able to use. Faculty were surprised that it was totally online. They were not completely thrilled that it was totally online, so I had high attrition in those first workshops, especially during the regular semesters, because as you know, if you're faculty, you work with faculty, you are faculty, faculty have a lot of stuff on their plate. Sometimes they don't have as much as they think they do, but they still have a lot of stuff on their plate. And I'm faculty, so sometimes guilty of that. So I pack in an awful lot of stuff in the online workshop. So in the first one, they ended up learning about best practices of pedagogy and building a course site, because the expectation was that they were able to go online at the end of this 7-week course. So it was a lot. I got mostly really great feedback from the people who stayed in. people who were able to buckle down, particularly over the summer. They had more time, and absorb the material and actually go forward getting a class online, but it was obviously a challenge to them. What I realized was a lot of people in these workshops at the beginning had very low-level Sakai skills, despite my making it clear that you need to be up and running in Sakai and be familiar with some of the tools in order to move forward in this class. I still had people who said at the beginning in the application, I'm good to go with Sakai. Or I use these, and these tools, no problem. And then come to find out that they didn't know how to post a syllabus, they didn't know how to work messages or forums, in part because they hadn't been on the student side of it. So they gained a new understanding and appreciation for that. So in consequence, I spent an awful lot of time teaching Sakai rather than teaching pedagogy. Challenges that I faced, I already mentioned the resistance to the totally online model. Some people really like hand-holding, in person, eye contact, no, really tell me that again, not being great online learners. I learned that, and this was a kind of a shock to me, that faculty by and large are really bad students. In some cases, worse students than my real students. And I called people on that, and they were really insulted. You didn't do the homework. Well, I'm a faculty member, I'm very busy. We have students who work full-time, they're very busy too. So if I'm going to cut you slack, then you need to cut your students slack.
I'm sure you made friends.
No, I did not. I did not. The other challenge I faced was some people were in it for the money. So they, did lip service to the course, they got their course online, and I'm aware, because some of them were in my department, that they then let all of the learning about best practices go by the wayside. So that was a problem. But my successes, the people who stuck with it and who absorbed best practices as best practices, went forward and made a difference to their students. It also spread by word of mouth that this was a good thing to do. So ultimately what I decided to do was break it into 2 workshops, each 5 weeks. The first one focuses on pedagogy, the second one focuses on course design. So there's higher expectations in the second one because I want you to be able to demonstrate that you know how to load content in such a way that it's accessible, that it's easily navigable, that it's going to make sense to your students, that you're student-centered. The first one, I want you to absorb best practices and learn how to learn online. So it totally changed how people responded in a way. I took away the candy of the money for the first one, so I don't have as many people signing up, of course. The candy for the second one was seriously reduced, and you have to do a little bit more than just put a course together. But the challenges remain the same. High attrition, gosh, this is online and it's really hard. I'm really busy. I have to teach 3 classes, so I don't know how you expect me to do this kind of work, and so on. So then our newest development.
So when I came to the office in September, as Kathleen said, one of the problems with the online teaching fellows program was the Sakai component. The faculty would jump in because it was taught in Sakai and not know how to navigate, and she'd spend so much time answering tech-related emails and not enough time on the content, the best practices and the design elements. So I created a basic Sakai competency course, also in Sakai, and I created it so faculty would enter her course with a working knowledge of Sakai based on what we thought were the most important components. It is self-paced, and it is built within lessons for the most part. We wanted to keep it pretty simple so that when faculty took it, they would be like, oh, I could create that. So let me go to my access here. Let's see.
Something will always go wrong.
Check your settings.
We have a lot of these typos in the room. It'll be great.
This is coming up earlier. Well, I can show it to you later if you guys are interested, but
I can try to help you out a little.
that'd be great. But anyway, it's created in Sakai. So we chose the tools that we thought would be most universal across departments. And so most universal across departments, and so would be applicable from everyone from sciences to writing to what have you. We decided on Syllabus. The Syllabus tool forums. We chose forums because in order to create discussions and because of the statistical advantage, we also have J forums at URI, which a lot of faculty preferred because they thought it was prettier. And it is somewhat prettier and less clunky, but we tried to move them back to forums because of the statistical advantage and the organizational hierarchy. So we had discussions, we had Gradebook. I was looking at it, I could show you lessons. So in lessons, and this was a really important from Quality Matters, which we introduced to them in the first part of the best practices, we have them create a start here in lessons. And in the start here, oh great. We have them create a screencast that is introduces their students to the navigation of Sakai. So we really encourage every online instructor to have that be the first thing the students see. So when they log on, they see a video from the instructor, and the instructor is showing them around their course site. Because unfortunately, we don't have templates. Not every course site at URI is the same. And so just because they understand how to navigate Kathleen's course doesn't mean they're going to understand the tools in my course. So we have the instructor spend, 3 to 7 minutes, create the video be 3 to 7 minutes, and the students, they keep it up there all semester long, and the students can refer back to it as they need to. But that reduces the number of tech questions that the instructor gets asked almost completely. So basically, they come to start here. It tells them that this is a self-paced course. They can take as long as they need to complete this course. If they are proficient in Sakai, they should be able to get through it in 30 minutes. If they don't really know Sakai that well, it might take more like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Every step comes with textual instructions and a screencast of me showing them how to do it. I tried to keep all of the videos under 5 minutes, most of them more around 1 to 3 minutes, all with captioning to show them how to set up the site, the difference between a product site and a course site. All of these show them step by step how to do it, but it's all contextualized in why they should do it. So there's a pedagogical backing for every functional aspect of Sakai. So when they get into Kathleen's course, not only do they know how to use the tools, but they know why the tools are important and when they might want to use them. So it's setting up the course site, creating your online syllabus, creating and posting to discussion forum, and in that there's a little blurb about instructor presence and why that's important and how to establish that in forums, posting documents and URLs to resources, attaching the forum post to the gradebook, talks about the importance of gradebook, how we surveyed students, and one of the things they really wanted from their instructor was timely access to grades. Using Camtasia Relay, all the faculty at URI have a free Camtasia Relay account, and we have support for Camtasia Relay. So while they might use QuickTime or Camtasia Studio or Jing or something else, that's fine. But in this one, we're giving them the option, or teaching them, or showing them how to use this because there is support for it. Showing them how to create the intro video, navigational video that I talked to you about, and then embed that within lessons. That step 7 really gets into why lessons is important, how much they can do with lessons. And then adding participants to their site. They add me and Kathleen to their site, and then they message us to let us know that they're done with the course and tell us how they found what they liked about it, what they wanted to learn more about, if there are other tools that they're interested in. And I really wanted the other tool question in there because we can't focus on every tool in this course. And it gave me a point of contact to reach out to them and then work one-on-one with that. So say they really wanted to learn tests and quizzes, somebody was mentioning that that's a whole course in and of itself. So I wasn't going to put that in here, but for those who really need to use it and don't already know how, then I can sit down with them and work. The successes, the faculty, well, first the challenges. A lot of faculty who are already using Sakai didn't want to have to do this. They felt that it would be beneath them to have to learn basic Sakai tools when they were already using Sakai. However, we were able to make it a prerequisite for online teaching fellows. So when they did get into the course, a lot of them said, oh, I had been using that tool, but I never really understood why it was important, or I never thought about using it that way. So they learned something different or new about tools that they thought they already knew. The video halted a lot of them, so a lot of them would fly through the course and then get to having to make that screencast and get nervous. And so it took them a lot longer than they anticipated because they stopped there. And then there was an embedding issue, which had to do with our video server. So I ended up having to do some workarounds with YouTube or Vimeo or other streaming services. A lot of the successes, all the faculty who have finished this, and I would say it's probably 100 have signed up since September. 25 of those never logged on. They wanted to get in the course right away, and they never logged on. Another 20 probably logged on once or twice. About 25 are in progress, and then the rest have finished and successfully completed the course. So it's slow for some, but they do appreciate that it's self-paced and just in time. They can refer back to it. So if they forgot what to do with Gradebook or what have you, it's always there for them. And it's provided a basic understanding of how and why to organize a course. So it's not just the how, but also the why they found really important. And also it has given word of mouth for instructional design. So like we've told you, I just started in September, and I'm the only instructional designer in the entire university. So a lot of people didn't know I was there or what instructional design even was. So it's been good for that.
I would also say that the basic Sakai competency course has really upped the ante for the people who come to my courses. Because as I said, I was spending an awful lot of time fielding Sakai questions, and I don't have to do that anymore. And so they know a lot more. They're ready to rock and roll as far as how do I teach this course? How do I start getting content? What's accessibility? What's universal design? What's quality matters? So I'm able to get to some real meat as far as content rather than fooling around.
It's just like in the courses that I teach online. So you mentioned that you really wanted the students to have that Sakai knowledge. That video that I create and embed at the beginning of the course really frees me up to focus on the content of my course and not focus on Sakai. And students, are fairly proficient once you show them how to get around, and basically, we're going to be using assignments in this class. When you submit an assignment, this is what you do. We're going to be conversing in the forums. This is what you do. Super quick, super easy. They can refer back to it as many times as they want. Like students, faculty also found that useful.
So we have our lessons learned up here, but I want to open it to questions if anybody has questions. Otherwise, we'll yammer more at you about what we've already learned. Are there questions or comments? So this is what we learned.
I just made a note that adding the video at the beginning, start of the class sounds like a really great idea. And I'm going to ask those guys over in the corner there if they can help me with that.
It's quite simple, but it's really, really useful and impactful. And you won't believe how much it frees up both students and faculty.
Yeah.
I'm in the IT support side of this, and one of the things that I really like about that concept is that we have, like most places, we have a couple of week add drop period at the beginning, And I always worry about what happens to the students when they miss that first class.
Yeah.
And this gives them a way to come up to speed. And they also are able to use it for their shopping period, just to sort of get a flavor of, if you decided between this class and the other class, which one feels like a better fit for them.
But they don't have access to the video until they sign up.
If you put it in lessons, they don't. You can put it in the site information display and make that public so that when they're shopping, they can see it there.
Other questions? Comments? Yeah.
How do you determine that they've successfully completed your basic Sakai competencies? Do you have sort of a checklist where you go look and see that they completed?
Yep, so when they go through all of the different, I just go through and review their sites. So once they're done, you'll see the last 2 steps are adding me to the site and then sending me a message. Then it will pop up in my Sakai. I'll go on and I'll review the site, make sure they have all the components. And then a lot of times they have decided to add different tools because they like those better or they know those better, or make their own course. And so there's a lot of back and forth. I would say, you know, it's rare that someone gets it right the first time. And so I do go back and forth with them a lot and point out, oh, you know, this is great so far, but in step 4, it mentions this, and we do this because of this, so you're going to need to go back and do that. And then once they are done, then we'll send them a certificate of completion, and they can hop into Kathleen's section.
Like your money. Oh, no, that's the other one.
Yes.
So is this actually enforced? If they don't go to class, they can't teach their online classes?
No. And that is something that it's being enforced in certain departments. So we have relationships with certain departments where they're really supportive of what we're doing and have said that for their online instructors, they won't give them an online class, until they've done this. So I'm in the writing and rhetoric department, and my chair will not give anyone an online class. Even I got an email yesterday from a woman who's been teaching online for 10 years, she says, and I have to take your course before they'll give me my next section. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're going to take my course, because, you know, and you couch it like, I'm so glad, you know, I hope you learned something, and if you see anything in there that you know from doing it for so long, be sure to let me know so I can add it. So, you know, there's a lot of that.
Yes. Other questions? Our contact information is there. If you have further questions, if you want to continue the conversation, we're more than happy to talk with like-minded people facing like challenges.
Yeah, if you're interested in the results from the Google form, then you can, you know, contact us and we can send you that information. If you are interested in seeing more of the ins and outs of the Basic Sakai Competency course, I can add you to that as a guest. So you can, you know, see that.
Happy to share. All right then. Thank you very much for coming. Can
you leave that up for a second?
Sure.
Thanks. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, there's actually, I think I only know 3. Well,
I've never heard of it.
I would like to. Maroon.
Just shoot me an email, and I would take it right now. Unless you have a card. Okay, so shoot me an email, and then we'll be in contact like that.
Right, how quickly.
Yeah.
There is and so I think what we do is kind of take students and I'd love to see what get some ideas. Yes. I went there.
You lived here?
No, but I lived in the city. Okay. You know about
Otherwise, I didn't get there.
I know, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It always
I know that's not exactly what
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I usually just all the departments.
I don't even just.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And my email is the second one, so please ask me any questions you want.
I have not prepared.
You're right, no, I totally understand. Okay, great. I don't have a card, but yeah, I'm fine. Nice to meet you.
Especially,
Versus, let's discuss. Faculty to keep.
Yes.
So you go home.
And so they were from that's what we said. All they have to do, all these students is log in with it to set their.
So I'm searching.
Like, I have to worry about it, I still don't. Oh, I do too.
They can just retrieve it immediately.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we have
So,
things regulated.
augmented that was really good for us. So now, I'm like the person.
Okay, you're right on this side.
Yeah, because we have specific guidelines for other schools. So we set the guidelines, and then we have administrators that go through and make sure that they're. For example, the most important is that the grade book has to match the course outline because the course outline is much harder for the student.
We're actually also.
There might be that different.
We
have to say, oh yeah, so it's great, because there's technically, we have one all these other stuff.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah, you're so cute.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of along these things.
Yeah.
Am I making sense? Okay.
Because if you start asking the right questions, you start answering them, better. And you're focusing on that problem. So that's always my goal, is to identify the problem. What we found really is that, especially now that I'm on higher courses, so John's point, I spend literally sometimes I work like classes. And then weekend I'll take files. It's how you see that. I really get that. Our senior teacher is the only what's the primary thing that faculties will concentrate on? Somebody's going to people getting embarrassed. What goes ahead and reduces their anxiety is actually having a text one person online the first 15 minutes. That's it. Watch 15 minutes. So if you're using a logo, just having that person there. I it's something else. You know what? The best practice is no matter how many times you talk about it, first 10 minutes, you will put audio video. And also, I remember at one time in Rhode, we were having a bunch of students in this class. I don't know. So you know what? Okay. Call out the students.
Right. That's the assignment.
Give it time.